will give you guys, well, first of all, let's have a moment of silence for the still suffering sick addict out there. Um, you can pray to the God of your understanding or just be silent for a few minutes, and also follow that by the Lord's Prayer. So let's have a moment of silence first before we get started. Lord, our Father, who art in heaven, in thy name, thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not in temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. So let's give Ali a round of applause and undivided attention. Let that young man speak first.
What's up, y'all? How you doing? I was planning on speaking today, but I wasn't planning on speaking about like something different. But that's actually good because I've actually always there's some people I recommended this book to, and it was, I believe, Olaf, Mac, and I gave it a little bit to Tamari as well. And I actually discovered this book on the GTL tablet in jail, and it probably made the biggest difference in my life. And it's not just about public speaking. It's it ties a lot into recovery, and that's kind of, I'm going to try to make some connections between both and show you guys that this book alone is very good for expressing yourself more than just public speaking. Let me start off by going to the first thing. I have a lot of things highlighted, but I'll start by saying this. A book may be full of good ideas well expressed, but if its writer views his subject from the wrong angle, even his excellent advice may prove to be ineffective. That, for me, how I tie that into recovery is having a bad sponsor or someone giving me bad advice in recovery. Someone can say the right thing, but if they're coming from a very personal or I feel like vindictive point of view from myself, I might not even take that advice. So trusting the person that's giving me the advice is very, very important. The second thing would be, yes, public speaking is public utterance, public issuance of the man himself. Therefore, the first thing, both in time and in importance, is that the man should be and think and feel things that are worthy of being given forth. This, for me, means that essentially, it has to be about me. It can't be about, I can get advice from someone else, I can get experiences from someone else, but it's my story that I'm telling. I'm not telling anyone else's story. And reaching this point, it took me a long time because when I was in my last rehab, I was dishonest about certain things. I was telling a story, but leaving a little bit out to make it kind of not tell the whole truth. And speaking, not just on a group basis in a group, or in a meeting, speaking on an individual basis with people before sharing the story helped me a lot. So then I'm like, all right, so this person knows this story, this person knows this story. It even happened in multiple situations with, for example, Mac or Adam or Olaf, where I felt like I could never share the story with someone, and then even one person one-on-one. But then after a while, like maybe a day later, even like the next meeting or a group, I'm sharing the story and I'm like, wow, like someone then comes up to me and says, hey, I have a similar story, I have a similar experience. And that also gives me reassurance the next time I go to share that most likely, other than the fact that it's helping me, it's helping someone else as well. The third thing is the man must enthrone his will to rule over his thought, his feelings, all his physical power, so that the outer self may give perfect, unhampered expression to the inner, making the will sovereign. For me, that ties into the third step. And my will is not necessarily the will I'm making sovereign right now. It's God's will, because I'm not trying to create an atmosphere of, let's just say, I used to, for example, I had a story, for example, of the waterboarding story that I used to tell in the rehab over there with certain people that I knew that wouldn't reveal certain things, but I couldn't give every detail about it. So I wasn't completely honest, and that wasn't God's will at the time. Now, I was telling, I believe John C., he was like flabbergasted that I was saying that I don't necessarily think before I speak. And he was like, he said that I was saying that's my way of authenticity. And that is my way of authenticity. And that's a blessing to reach a point in time where there really is nothing to hide. And that's for me, serenity. It's not having to hide something from myself or the God of my understanding in others. And that ties into the fifth step. Yes, revealing to God, another person, or ourselves and another person. I can't remember the order. The things that we did wrong. I can't remember exactly the sentence, but the more I'm honest with God, that's how it works in my programs. I'm honest with God first. I pray, I'm Muslim, and it's really easy for me to now, at this point in time, to just say everything. And for me, it's actually very awesome that I don't necessarily ask God for certain things. I ask him to make me more in tune with his will and more in tune with his way of understanding, because every time I pray for something, let's say a car, I don't need that car. I already have a car, for example, or I want a better car. I want to have sex with a girl. I don't necessarily need that girl. If I have sex with that girl, I'm gonna finish with her. I'm gonna feel guilty. I'm gonna go on to the next girl. Typical stuff. So I know what doesn't work for me, but God, even if I know what doesn't work for me, I still want it. And that's my biggest character defect. Is, for example, I know leaving like sober living early, for example, would be not the smartest thing, because based on the statistics that Raven says, you have a much higher likelihood of recovery if you stay in sober living. But my mind, whether you call it the disease, the dysfunction, the brain, whatever, is telling me to do something that I want. And that's not necessarily a bad thing if I know that God's will is usually better for me. And usually I found out that what I thought was my want, and it's weird how to explain this, but the needs that I have, when I'm in God's will, I realize those are my wants in the end. When the situation is unfolding and I realize, oh, like I'm at McShin now, I'm not like at another rehab. Or like in the beginning, I had a very difficult experience interacting with people in general. And at some points I was like, I wanted to leave. I'd rather go back to jail. That's not true now. And even in that point in time, even though I was saying that was my feeling, I don't think that was my subconscious actual desire. Because look at where I am now, much calmer. I'm interacting with most people much better. And things have gotten even more serene. I remember being the first week and second week here, I was like, this is amazing. Even though it was like, there was a lot of things going on in the house, just basic, like Grant says, frat house stuff. But even that was a learning lesson for me to realize that even if I go into another environment that's hectic for me, being hectic is not the answer. Being more hectic is not the answer. Now, does it mean I need to people please and not have boundaries? No. But praying on what I need from God, which is usually to be within his control, not my control. Because I said this before in meetings, I don't like being in control of anything, because I realize I can't control anything. I can barely control my emotions, my desires, and my words. How can I think that I can control other people and their same three things, their desires, their words, and their will? Let me go to another thing. This is actually one of my favorite things that it says in this book, and this is only 2 pages in. There's a lot of good lessons here. It is an ancient truism that we learn to do by doing. This for me ties into recovery, where I have to do the things that I need to do. I need to read the book. I need to get advice. I need to, when I have a feeling or an emotion, to go to the person that I trust most. And a sponsor, before you get a sponsor, are the people around you, are the staff here, are the participant that you like have a connection with. Even for me, sometimes it was my mother, just talking to her about things, even though she doesn't know recovery necessarily, someone to hear me out. And regarding the recovery part, this is something I also had a very big issue with, is I would know what I needed to do. I wouldn't create a plan, but I would expect it to happen just because I'm myself. And it's not easy to understand that until I'm 25 now, but my entire life, I was a very entitled person. I expected things just to be handed to me. And that's not how it works, especially in recovery. Like they say, you have to chase recovery, or I have to chase recovery the same way I chased the drugs. Because I have to create a balance. I can't just be sitting around, me personally, because this is what I did in the other rehab for some time. It's just sit around in groups here, not share, not speak to my sponsor, not do step work, not do all these things. I'm just going to be in the same place. And I think they have a similar saying in the United States when it comes to recovery. But if I'm not going up the hill, I'm rolling down. Recovery is, hopefully the hill isn't as steep as, it's not as steep as before. So if I'm here now, in the beginning, I think it's more like this, where I have to at least understand what's going on. I have to at least complete step one, understand that I'm powerless and my life is unmanageable. I think that's all for now. But like I said, guys, this book is like, it's the fucking gospel. I'm sorry. Thank you.
All right. Good morning, everybody. Again, so since we are doing this format a little different, I got a suggestion from David a few minutes ago. I got a couple of young men in here. He asked me if you guys want to share a little bit, about 5 minutes, you can. Then I will share a little bit with you guys. So, Tommy, if you'd like to come up here and share for about 5 minutes, come on up here. Give Tommy a round of applause, y'all.
I'm Tommy. I'm an addict. So don't really speak that much. But yeah, I'm an addict like everybody else. Heroin, methamphetamine. My dad died when I was young, and my mom was a drug dealer. I had to go live with her, and she left when I was a teenager and never came back. So I pretty much grew up on the streets, doing whatever I want to do, and ended up in the penitentiary numerous times. I've overdosed 16 times on record, probably way more than that. Some people just Narcan me and came back. But today I am clean. I'm living my best life. I can't explain how grateful I am because a lot of people aren't grateful, but I know what it's like to have nothing. And today I'm getting all that back. And not only am I getting things back, the content of my character has changed. I'm not the same person. I can be trusted. I'm honest. I have integrity. My word it means something to people, and that means something to me. When I first got out of intensive, I was scrambling around trying to do all this stuff and get things done. I'm doing this and doing that, and that's kind of what I did in my addiction. I was just trying to scramble around, get everything done, and things really weren't important, and I wasn't working on myself. And somebody told me, you have to remember that movement is not always progress. So when you've mastered the art of doing nothing, you come let me know because I am not good at that. Just sitting around and just having downtime. I always want to do stuff, and that's my issue. So I struggle with that a lot. But I repaired a relationship with my daughter. When I first got out of jail, I called her. She's like, "Why are you calling me?" And that hurt. And so today, it's my best friend. It's just a lot of things. Thank you. A lot of things have changed in a short amount of time, and only because I stayed in this program and I did what I was supposed to do. And there's a lot of great people here, and there's going to be times when conflict involved, but we're all addicts, and that happens. So, but everybody's intentions here is very well. Like this man right here allows me to come every Sunday and serve and help. I just set up chairs, nothing serious, but I'm here and I'm able to help out in my little part. To me, that's a lot. So, but if you would have knew me before, you would definitely know it's true because I was not a good dude. So today I am grateful. I'm clean. I'm getting better every day, and I got a lot of struggles going on, but I'm handling it. And it could be a lot worse. I could be dead. I should be dead. There's no reason for me to be here right now. So today I'm grateful, and for anybody that's going through this, there's hope. This program is amazing. And God is my what I use for recovery, Jesus Christ. But today, I'm grateful to be alive. Thanks for listening.
I'll give Tommy another round of applause. So what's more important right now is to know that this is about you. This is not about me. This is about your recovery and what you want for your life going forward. So getting outside yourself, Tommy, and sharing your story, that's a great part of recovery. Letting people know where you came from and where you're at today. You know what I'm saying? And the things that you just said that you're still coming around and helping Steve and doing those things, that's your recovery, putting it in, investing in yourself, which is a beautiful thing. So yeah, this is about you guys. I just want you to know, first and foremost, this is definitely about you, all about you. Nick, if you like to, you can come up. If not, that's fine. You want to come up for 5 minutes and share? Give Nick applause, man. Let's give him a round of applause.
Hey, what's up, guys? I'm Nick. Yeah, I think the hardest thing for me, I started using it at an early age. I grew up when I was a little kid. I grew up in the rooms. I was like 4 or 5 years old, and my mom and dad would take me to meetings, and I'd go and play in like the kids' room while they had their meeting. So I knew about it, and I knew what was going on. There was always an expectation in my house that we would never do drugs. And that, we started going to church, that we were like, we were a God-fearing family. So that all changed though when I was a teenager. Um, and it was like I had a version of my life and my family that was one way, and then all of a sudden it was completely different. I always struggled with like ADHD in school and whatnot, and like to fit in and like social anxiety and whatnot. I feel like, I'm like really sensitive to everything that's going on, and I want to be well liked and everything. But I started to feel like in high school, like when people started doing drugs, people started smoking weed all around me, that's what I needed to do. And like, I was interested in it. I was curious about it. I didn't think it would be, I had no idea. I didn't know. I didn't think it would be that big of a deal if I did. Even though I was raised one way, I was raised to be clean. I was raised to not do drugs. I started having a little bit of rebelliousness. So I started using when I was 15. But the first time that I smoked weed. My mom found the weed in the bag. She was packing for a vacation trip, and she took all the bags from around the house. She took my weed bag, and it was just like a little backpack that had like my weed in it and like my grinder and my bowl and whatnot. And she found it. And then, she didn't get mad or anything. She confronted me about it, and I thought I was screwed. I thought I was about to get my ass handed to me and like hung over the fireplace. But she wasn't mad at all. She just was like, okay. And then she kept packing, and I was like, something's wrong. A week later, we get back from the trip, come to find out that after 10 years of sobriety, my mom and dad had both relapsed. And they told me they didn't want me to get weed from my friends. They wanted me to smoke with them because they thought it would be safe for me. And that became the backbone of my addiction for 10 years. And that's about as much as they were involved in it, but it definitely changed for me growing up, because then I had a whole different, like, it was like I didn't know who my mom and dad were anymore because they were totally different. And it was so unexpected. It was so surprising, but at the same time, it was like, as a teenager, that was exactly what I wanted. And then all of a sudden, like, my friends started coming over to smoke with my family, and then like my parents' coworkers would come over and smoke with them, and it was like the cool thing to do. And that was normal for me from the time that I was 16. I was loving life. I thought I had made it. Like, I had everything that I wanted. I had the cool parents all of a sudden. I didn't think they were going to be cool with it. But that took me down a dark road for me, because I was always pushing limits. And, I would always try to, like, I would always test boundaries. I would always go above and beyond. So for me, then, when I was 17, I started to use other drugs like acid and K2 and all that shit, because I was around. And then I found a friend who knew how to use heroin and where to get it from, and he showed me, and I started doing that. And that's the biggest regret I have in my entire life, because now I'm like, there's so many consequences. That's all I'm going to focus on, because I'm here again from having that become your norm. That's all I know how to do. Like, I mean, and like, my parents kind of dropped off. They stopped going to meetings. They wouldn't even take me to meetings when I tried to get clean. I had to do all that shit myself. And it just got so bad. I'm not much of a person standing here. There's a lot that I wanted to do with myself, but anytime I started to feel uncomfortable with shit, like, drugs was always there in some form or another, whether it was from my family or from my friends. I could get it. And there was a period of time where I wouldn't even have to pay for it at all. I was just getting handed drugs, hard drugs, needles, everything. My friends would provide it for me. And it was like my entire life was already set for me. But I always knew I wanted out for, the hard drugs having a huge impact on me spiritually, especially as I became an adult and realized that I had no idea what I wanted to do with myself other than use. And I was the definition of an addict. It just took me a long time. It took me probably 6 years. I had a heroin addiction turned into a meth addiction. All the heroin went away, was replaced by fentanyl. And then I started doing meth all the time just because I missed it. I just had a needle fixation. And it's just really embarrassing. I mean, because there's just, my parents raised me, before they had relapsed, they had instilled so many values in me that they they just, it just was a weird place. So I'm just, today I don't have to live like that. I know I don't have to live like that. I need to let go of all that. And that's what I'm trying to do. And I'm really grateful for McShin, because McShin allows me to, everything that I needed back then, like the care, the guidance, the discipline, the structure, the spirituality, the principles, it's all there. And I get to I'm growing up right now, I'm learning how to live, I'm learning to be all right now, and to love myself, and, to be a member of society right now. And it's what I've always wanted. And it just takes time. I'm really grateful that I was here. I came in April and I got 6 months clean, and then I went out because I got off probation. I wanted to say goodbye to alcohol, I guess. I don't know. To be totally honest, I wasn't planning on coming back. A lot of the uncomfort that I felt from before kind of went repressed, and then I started making plans to go out. And I'm just happy that I came back, because as soon as I got drunk again and I felt what it made me feel, I knew immediately that recovery was superior. And what I felt then when I was coming down was so negative, because my recovery was talking to me, and it was like a battle in my head between my recovery and my disease. And my recovery was winning, because there's no way that I could have justified that behavior at that point in time, after everything that I'd been through, knowing that deep down, all I wanted was to just to stop and just to try to grow as a person. And I felt like I had regressed in every sense of that word, like I had gone backwards. And it made me feel like I was crazy, like I was losing my mind, like I was sitting there in the tent hungover, and I'm like, dude, I have to do something. I can't do this anymore. I developed some confidence from being here. I developed some self-esteem from being here before, driving and working at the front desk, that I hadn't had. And I didn't ever feel like I was comfortable doing that. I felt I was literally in my head every day. I was sitting there, I was going, they made a mistake. But it helped me just to do something different, to do things that I've never done, to go outside my comfort zone, and then to grow. And then I realized that while I was sitting there in the tent, that I was a fundamentally different person, even though I had used again, than I was when I came in April. And it was a really good feeling, because it was like there was all this hope that I could just go back to that and keep doing that. And then that would be my life, and I would be fine, absolutely fine doing that. And it was what I'd always wanted the whole time. I was trying to get that for my family and for my friends as a kid, as a teenager, and then all of a sudden it was here. This is where I found it. So I'm really grateful to be here, and, for every one of you. And I wish I had met y'all sooner, been here sooner, but oh well. I think God has a timing for everything. I think it's perfect timing. It worked out. So thanks. That's all I got.
All right. So this is traditionally a church service that Walk does. So I'm going to keep the tradition like it's supposed to. I went and got my book out of my car. I'm going to read some scripture to you guys, and then I'm going to share a little bit about myself. But my sponsor is always in my ear. When I first got clean, my sponsor said to me every single day, it drove me crazy, stay on the firing line, stay on the firing line, stay on the firing line. And what he meant by that was, when situations come up like this, when you have to step in recovery and do some things, you're ready. You're always ready. You try to always be ready. It takes a lot of courage for somebody to come up here and get behind this mic and share a story or talk or facilitate. You know what I'm saying? Everybody has a different opinion about how they feel about how people sound or what they say, but it truly takes a lot of courage to get up behind this mic and say something, and knowing that people are going to judge whether it's good or bad or whatever the case may be. But I'm proud of these two guys, and extremely proud of their effort of getting up here and treating their disease and talking about what they need to talk about. Thank you again, Nick. Tommy left. So, all right. Stay on the firing line. It's the word for the day. Always be ready. I'm going to read a couple of passages. Somebody gave me this book when I first got clean, and this book has been in my car ever since, and I go to it daily to read scripture out of it and read different things to keep me focused. It's funny how I just flip to a page sometime and it puts me right where I need to be at. So part of my story is in AA, they talk about we're people that usually don't mix. You know what I'm saying? Like we come from all different backgrounds, all different places, all different areas. Some of us from a whole different country. You know what I'm saying? What are the chances of me going to his country? You know, very slim. But he's here in the United States. So I get to meet somebody from another country that talks about their culture and how he did things over there. Same thing though. We all have the same disease. We all have the disease of addiction, whether it be alcohol, whether it be drugs, whether it be pills, whatever it is, we all have this same common bond. No matter what color our skin is, we all can relate to each other because of our addiction. And from that platform, we get to grow together as friends and people and work together to become sober and clean and live together in society. So it was funny and ironic that I just flipped to a page and it kind of put me right where I need to be at. So I'm going to read this first scripture. It's from Psalms 89, 1 and 2. And it says, I will always sing about the Lord's love. I will tell of his loyalty. From now on, I will say, your love continues forever. Your loyalty goes on and on like the sky. The second one I'm going to read is from Deuteronomy 7:9. So know that the Lord your God is God, the faithful God. He will keep his agreement of love for thousands of lifetimes for people who love him and obey his commands. Then over on this other side has like a little reading that I love because the reading always like touches my heart and it always kind of puts me on point. So it says, we are God's idea. We are his face, his eyes, his hands, his touch. We are him. Look deeply into the face of every human being on earth and you will see his likeness. Though some appear to be distant relatives, they are not. God is no cousins, only children. We are incredibly the body of Christ, and though we may not act like our Father, there is no greater truth than this. We are his. I can't pronounce this. Unterribly, he loves us undeniably. Nothing can separate us from the love of Christ. So what I'm saying is, that just put me right on point. We are the face, the eyes, the ears. We are Christ. Every single human being in this room is the body of Christ. We are all his. We're all alike. We're more alike than we think we are. We're more similar than we think we are. We may find negativities in each other, or we might try to point out things that we disagree about each other, but we are so much alike in so many ways. And that's the wonderful thing. Once you take time and get to know somebody, you realize you have a lot more in common than you ever thought you would. I've sat down and talked to some people in this building sometimes, and it's amazing how much we have in common. It's truly amazing. So I'm not going to keep y'all very long. I'm going to give y'all a brief history on my story. So I grew up in Gilpin Court. In the Pride of Gilpin Court. I played basketball. My story is horrible. I don't even have to go into details. My story is pretty horrible. Great guy, bad choices, pretty much all my life. I was probably one of the best basketball players in the city of Richmond during 84 to 87. I was in Richmond's Times Dispatch. They talked about how great I was, but at the same time, I had one foot in basketball and the other foot in the streets. That's not the part I want to talk about. The part I want to talk about is what happened in my life. I ended up moving to Kentucky to get away from Richmond, play basketball in college in Virginia, screwed that scholarship up. So I moved over to Kentucky, got another basketball scholarship in Kentucky. Great idea on paper. You leave Richmond, you go to Kentucky, you play basketball, you graduate, you come back, and you're a hero all over again. That didn't happen. Needless to say, that did not happen. I went to Kentucky, and I got to Kentucky, and I acted a damn plumb fool. But this is the part I want y'all to understand. We are usually people that don't mix. On my last using night, I'm gonna talk about that small part of my using. I ran with two guys from Detroit. They were pretty major in the drug trafficking. I was using and hustling with them, so to speak. But at the end, one of them got locked up. He went off to federal penitentiary, and it was just me and the other one left. So at the very end, I already knew in my heart, I probably was 35, 36 by now, hadn't got locked up, did no major time. Been locked up, been arrested, but didn't do any major time. When they came to arrest our friend, which they had already tried him, he had got where he could get out and take care of his affairs. They came back to get him because he jumped. He ran, and he didn't turn himself in. So they came back to get him. And when they came back to get him, it was a horrific scene. It was one of those kick the doors in, throw you on the ground, beat your ass, all that good stuff. I went through all that. So I looked my friend in the face, the one that they didn't take. They didn't take me. They just took the one they wanted. And I said to myself, I didn't say it out loud, I can't do this no more. I can't. But because the disease of addiction is so powerful, I did go for probably another year running with him. But it was one night, it was a fatal night, that he left. And he went to a Valentine's Day weekend situation with his girlfriend. And those were the times where I tried to get a little rest. I called myself getting some rest. He's gone. I ain't got to sell drugs. I ain't got to get high. I'm just going to sleep in, look at TV, and eat. Well, they trust me so much that I always knew where all the dope was, all the money was, everything was. So he called me. He was in the hotel with his girlfriend enjoying his Valentine's Day weekend. Somebody's going to come over and buy something. What's left you can have. I was like, oh, man, why? Why? I'm at peace. You know what's going to happen when I sell her something? What's left, I'm going to get high with her. So that's what ended up happening. Now, a part of my story is, and this is the beginning of my story, I was a very loyal person in the streets. I had a lot of friends. People respected me. People trusted me. I was one of those guys that a lot of people looked up to me. And I'm going to go as far as saying, one time when I was like 17, 18, 19, 20, people looked at me like I was God for two reasons. They thought I was a meal ticket to go to the NBA, and I was a drug dealer. They thought I was God. I had both things going for me, the jewelry, the cars, and I played basketball. I mean, everybody looked up to me. Let's go back to the story. So what happened was, all those years around those guys, a good 15 or more years around those guys, I never took anything from them. I never stole anything from them. But what ended up happening that weekend was, the young lady that I sold the drugs with, she stayed in the apartment with me for a while. We started to get high. I said, hold up for a second. I went into the room. I got a $100 bill out of my friend's money, came back and gave her the $100 bill and told her to go get some more drugs. First time I ever done that. Never stole from anybody. And I'm talking about drug usage for probably close to 30 years now. I was one of those guys that didn't sell dummies. I didn't sell soap. I didn't sell fake drugs. I gave you what you're supposed to get. I was always 100 with you. Everybody loved me in the streets. Joe, they'll keep it 100. You know you can trust him. He gonna treat you right. I crossed that imaginary line. I went from Joe Dale the dope fiend to Joe Dale the thief too. I added that to my resume. Something I never thought I would do. Never thought I would steal from somebody. But guess what? I didn't just take 100. I kept going back. So it's a funny thing. The girl knew Jay, which is my friend. God rest his soul. He just got killed about a year ago. The girl knew him really well. She knew how tight our clique was, me and the other guy and Jay. So she knew I had money. She knew I was kind of halfway pulling some money in, but not really. But when I kept going back and forth getting crisp $100 bills, she said, hold up. You taking Jay money, ain't you? She figured it out. So she left. So I was by myself. Now, by now we started out, I said 11 o'clock in the morning. By now it's 6 o'clock in the evening and I'm by myself. And I said, hell, I done took the last 4 or 5 hours. I might as well keep it going. I took probably about 1,500, 100 at a time. How stupid is that? That's a real addict for you. Get 100, go get some more dope, smoke. By 7 o'clock, and I figured out, you know what, Jay might just come by. So let me go to somebody else's apartment around the corner. So I'm peeking, dope fiend, peeking around the corner, around the buildings, running back to the apartment. How stupid looking do you think I look at 6'5", 240 pounds, trying to peek and look around corners to keep from him seeing me? Probably about 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, reality hit me. Reality hit me. It's like, damn, you done effed up. You done messed up. 15, 16, 17-year relationship. He gonna be really mad with you. Y'all either gonna fight or you gonna figure out how to get this money back. So what I did was, at 5 o'clock in the morning, 6 o'clock in the morning, I got the guy that had been selling me drugs all night to take me downtown. We're talking downtown Lexington, Kentucky. I get to downtown and I sit on the side of a church crying like a baby. At this point, I'm saying to myself, I can't do this no more. I'm stealing money now. I know what my reality is tomorrow or Monday when this dude come home. He gonna want to kill me. My life is really basically effed up now. That was probably the most moment of clarity that I've had in 20 plus years before I got to that point. So this is where the story gets interesting. Remember I told y'all we people that normally don't mix? This is what I did. I sat there and I cried till about 9 o'clock in the morning, downtown Lexington, Kentucky. So I end up going into a church. What is it? I can't think of the name of the denomination, but it was an all-white church. Not Pentecostal, not Presbyterian. Presbyterian church. Older white people. I walk in the door, and I'm talking about I done drank all night. I done smoked all night. I'm high as gas still. I'm crying. I'm out of my mind. I probably look crazy. I walk in the door, and I see a guy, and I walk straight to him. I say, hey, man, I need some help. He said, what you need help? What are we talking about? I said, I need some help. He said, hold on for a second. Let me go get somebody. So what he did was he went and got somebody that was training under the pastor. It was like an apprenticeship. It was a young guy. So he came up. He said, man, what's going on? What do you need? I said, man, I need some help. I need some help. I really need some help. So he said, come on in the back. Let's go talk. So I sat down with him. After I started talking about guns, drugs, and money, he said, hold up. You need the pastor. He said, this ain't a case for me. He said, you're going to need the pastor. So by now, the service is about to start. So everybody tells me, he said, if you want to see the pastor, you're going to have to go through the service. You're going to have to stay. That's when I knew my God was working in my life. This is a big church filled with older white people, some of them 60, 70 years old. And I walk in that church, sit in one of the benches, and I'm 6'5", 260-pound man, looking like I done lost my damn mind. And everybody in there looking at me like, what the hell is he doing in here? You can see all the people just looking over at me like that. And I'm like, God almighty, when is this damn service going to be over? So I sat through the service. That's how I knew God was working in my life. That pastor was the beginning of my journey. We met after church. He had 2 families to come with him. They prayed over me. They talked to me. He took me to his brother's house, which is just outside of Lexington, and let me stay at his brother's house for 3 days. Then he came back, picked me up, took me to lunch, and said, "What are we going to do?" I said to him, I got 2 choices. I hadn't been home to Richmond, Virginia in 20 years. I said, I can either go to Richmond, Virginia, or you can find me a treatment facility somewhere. Didn't tell him what I did. Didn't tell him I stole the money. But I said, I got to get the hell up out of Lexington. So we decided. He made phone calls. I ended up going to Louisville, Kentucky, which was an hour away. He got me into a treatment program, which was an hour away. From that day forward, this man has been a part of my life ever since. And I'm going to tell you how great the story gets. The story gets greater. Got clean. He maintained a relationship with me. We talked on the phone. By the time I got to phase 2, which was probably about a year later, I was clean. I had started calling him. I had started talking about my children to him, how much I wanted to go on the weekends to see my children. And I told him I was saving money because I was working a job. I said, I was saving money, trying to buy me a car. He said, hey, I got some people in the congregation that have car dealerships. He said, just take your time. I'm going to talk to somebody for you and see if I can get one of these people to help you out with your car. So I go another couple of months saving money. He calls me up one weekend out the blues. Now, mind you, the whole time, because we all different, have personalities. I'm dealing with some of my peers in the recovery program, and some of them have negative attitudes. And I'm going to call it out what it is. Some of them were racist. And they were my friends, black-skinned people, had negative values, negative views of people. And I was getting angry and frustrated because this white guy was helping me. And I was hearing some negative stuff. So I had this one particular guy, and I told him, I said, hey, man, you know, I got a white pastor, man. He rocking with me. He helping me. Oh, man, I don't want to hear that. He ain't this and he ain't that. Yeah. I said, man, this guy has really helped me out to get to where I'm at. So he calls me out of the blues one weekend, and he says to me, I'm coming up. I want to talk to you about the car situation. Meet me at the McDonald's. So I go to McDonald's. So what I did was I grabbed that guy because I just wanted to meet him. Just wanted to meet him. See how cool he was. You know what I'm saying? Try to give him a different perspective of things. We go over to McDonald's. We're sitting and waiting for him. Y'all want to know how God works. I'm going to tell you how God works. I'm going to tell you how God shows up in my life, how powerful he is. We get to McDonald's. I see 2 vehicles pulling up toward McDonald's. One's a van and one's a car. I can see his face, see him driving the van, and I'm like, okay, so we got somebody with him. So he gets out of the van. Me and my friend, we go outside the McDonald's. He said, how you doing today? I said, I'm doing great. He said, here. I said, what do you mean here? He said, that's yours. I said, what do you mean that's yours? He said, save your money. We got you a van. I said, you giving it to me? You talking about a spiritual experience. I have never had anybody to give me a car in my life. This man gave me a vehicle to go see my children. A complete stranger that didn't know me from Adam, that blossomed a relationship in 12 months. I met a Christian. I met a real Christian. My friend's face was like, I was like, yeah, talk that it now. Talk that it now. I got a whip. So I was happy. And this is what he said. This is what made it even sweeter. He said, if you come down to Lexington this week, I'll pay for the property taxes and your tags for you. I said, I ain't got no problem with that. You can pay for it. No problem at all. I say that to say this to y'all. A complete stranger that I was open-minded because I had no other choice to reach out and let somebody help me in my life in ways that I never thought would help me. And that's the part of recovery that we don't see when we first get clean. We don't know where our help's gonna come from. We don't know who's gonna be our best asset. We can't judge people by their looks without opening the book up. From this point, from that point up until this day, he's like one of my best friends. He's one of my best friends because I've met a lot of people in my trials and my tribulations, but for him to open his heart up the way he did, first to take me to his brother's house, trust a complete stranger around his brother like that, and not only do that, to take it to the next level, continue this journey with me. I'm coming up on almost 15 years in February, 15 years of clean and sober. It's a blessing. And him to be a part of it, he's come to my son's basketball games, high school, college, the whole 9 yards. He's been there every step of the way. So I'm saying this to you guys. Give this a chance. Give people a chance. You know what I'm saying? This program is a great program. It's a program where you will never know where this journey will take you and where it leads you. And that's a beautiful thing. Some things you don't have to know. Some things you don't need to know. You know what I'm saying? All you got to do is stay in the moment and let the results be what they're going to be. Because more than likely, if you stay clean and sober, your success and your achievement is going to be unlimited. I mean, unlimited. I'm going to let y'all go smoke. Thank y'all for participating today. Appreciate y'all guys. And let's close before we, let's close with the Lord's Prayer. This is a spiritual service. So we're going to close with the Lord's Prayer. Yesterday was a beautiful day yesterday too. So I really enjoyed yesterday. I hope you guys got some out of all those nice speakers that came. What Walt said, GOD stands for good old dope fiend. So, you know what I'm saying? I know the God thing kind of scares some of us sometimes when we talk about it, but this is a spiritual service, so I'm allowed to talk about the God of my understanding the way I really want to talk about him, the way he has served me. So I'm able to do that today. But I understand if you want to relate to him as a high power or the God he'll understand, I respect that too. So let's have a moment of silence before we close out, followed by the serenity prayer. God, grant us serenity to accept the things we cannot change, the courage to change the things we can, and the wisdom to know the difference just for today. Thank y'all. Appreciate y'all today. Huh? Very good. Thank you. You killed it, dude. I didn't know all that. I didn't know.